Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by. I'm Carol and I'm glad to have you here. I hope you will consider subscribing. So today we are going to be doing another canning video for you. We're going to be canning up some delicious salsa. Now I do have a number of salsa videos on my channel and I will link them for you in the description box below, and also throw in some iCards for you so you can easily find those. Lots of delicious ways to make salsa. Also, one of the videos that I've done previously shows you how to use a safe method for making your own salsa recipe using an approved method by the National Center of Home Food Preservation. So make sure you look for all those other delicious recipes, like I said, listed for you in the description box below. But today we are going to be canning up salsa ranchera. What makes this salsa special is that you roast all the veggies before you turn it into salsa, which gives it a really unique smoky flavor. So roasting the veggies just brings out all their delicious flavors, gives it a nice smoky background, and it's really delicious. I do want to point out that you will find the recipe in the all new Ball Book of Canning. You will also find it on their website. Recipe in the all new Ball Book of Canning varies slightly from the recipe on their website, and I think we should go by the recipe on their website. All of the ingredients are the same with the exception of, in the all new Ball Book, it calls for 1/3 cup of fresh lime juice. Their website says to use 1/3 cup of bottled lime juice. And if you've been canning for very long, if you've hung around my channel very much, you will be aware that acidity in canning is important for safety. Fresh lime juice or fresh lemon juice does not have the same acidity as bottled. So anytime a canning recipe calls for using bottled lemon juice, that is what we should do. There are tested recipes that use fresh lime juice, and they're tested that way. So if it does say fresh, they would be deemed safe. However, because there is a discrepancy, and I didn't have time to contact Ball to find out what the dealio was, but since there's a discrepancy, we're going to err on the side of caution, and I'm going to use bottled lime juice instead of the fresh lime juice that is recommended in the book. So just be aware of that. Now, like I said, this salsa is a very basic salsa. You need 3 pounds of plum tomatoes cored. I would not try to use another tomato. Plum tomatoes are a lot meatier and they have less juice to them, so make sure you use a plum or a paste tomato here. You need 3/4 pound of jalapeno peppers. A word on peppers: if you do not want to use jalapeños, you do not have to. It is safe to use an alternate pepper instead, just do not change the amount. So you need about 3/4 pound of jalapeno or other pepper. If you like yours spicier, you could do spicier. If you want to do a combination of peppers, that is totally fine as well. Just don't change the amount. 4 cloves of garlic, 1 medium-sized white onion cut into 1/2 inch thick slices. We need 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 cup of chopped fresh cilantro. This recipe was tested with fresh herbs. Typically we use dried herbs, but any recipe that was tested using fresh herbs, it's safe to do so. And then, like I said, the 1/3 cup of bottled lime juice, not fresh. So if you have this book, I would make a note in the column that we really should be using bottled as opposed to fresh here. This is a water bath or steam canning recipe. You guys know I love steam canning, so I'm going to be using my steam canner. And this recipe is also small batch canning. It will make about 4 pint jars. I didn't get quite 4 pints, almost. I got 3 pints and then 3/4 of another pint, but it should yield about 4 pint jars. So I'm going to bring you in close and we're going to get started. Okay guys, I've preheated my oven to 425 degrees for roasting. I cored my tomatoes just like the instructions said. To core your tomatoes, you're just going to take a small paring knife, stick it beside the center of the core and just work around the core, and then it will pop right out for you. I have my 3/4 of a pound of jalapenos. I just washed them and left them whole according to Ball's instructions, and then a medium white onion that I sliced in about 1/2 inch rings, and that was their instructions. Also the garlic, I have 4 cloves of garlic here. They're fairly large cloves. I did remove the skins, and in order to remove the skins you have to kind of smash them a little bit with your knife, so that's why they look like that, but there's roughly 4 cloves of garlic. So we're going to stick this baking sheet that I've lined with aluminum foil and then put all my veggies on top. We're going to put it in our preheated 425-degree oven for 20 minutes. Then we're going to remove the garlic and roast it for 20 minutes more. Okay guys, it's been 20 minutes and I just wanted to bring you in and show you how things are starting to char up just a little bit. So I'm going to remove my garlic. And the reason we want to remove our garlic is because it will burn, and garlic becomes bitter when it's burnt. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of my veggies back into the oven. I'm going to flip it, give everything a good flip first, and then I'm going to stick it back in our oven to roast at 425 for another 20 minutes. Okay guys, I roasted everything for another 20 minutes. So now we're going to, and you can tell that everything has a nice char to it. The skins of the tomatoes and the jalapenos are nice and wrinkly. So we're going to take our jalapenos and we're going to put those in a bowl and cover them with plastic wrap for about 15 minutes. The rest of my veggies, I'm going to let them cool until they're cool enough to handle, and then I'm going to go ahead and get those chopped. Guys, once things are cool enough to handle, we are ready to start chopping. So I've got my onions here, and we're just going to roughly chop everything. We'll start with the onions. And then now I'm ready to do my roasted garlic, and again, we're just going to give it a rough chop. We're probably, with the garlic, you're going to more mince it than just a rough chop so that it gets dispersed throughout your salsa. Okay, and then for your tomatoes, you're going to remove the skins, and they should come off pretty easily for you. And then we're going to rough chop those as well. Okay guys, just a word on the tomatoes. I did include as much juice as I could from my cutting board. Also, just note that the longer they cool, the easier they are to peel, and be careful because the inside of the tomato is pretty warm. You don't want to get burned with the juice from the tomato. So I've got my onions, garlic, and tomatoes chopped and in my pan, and now we're going to deal with the jalapenos. So now what we want to do with those is we're going to peel them just like we did with the tomatoes. And then we also want to seed them. Some of mine are peeling easier than others. You just want to remove as much of the peeling as possible. And you want to be careful when you do this. You could wear gloves if you prefer. They also recommend seeding them, so I just cut them in half, and then I'm just going to use my finger to remove the seeds. Okay, once you peel and seed your jalapenos, then we're going to mince them. And just a word on the peppers, any type of pepper, the more blistered it is, the easier that it is to peel. All right, so now we are going to give that a stir. I'm going to turn my heat on to medium-high. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of salt. And we're going to bring this mixture up to a boil and then reduce the heat and simmer for 2 minutes. Okay guys, once your salsa has simmered for 2 minutes, you're going to remove it from the heat. You are going to add 1/2 cup of chopped fresh cilantro and 1/3 cup of bottled lemon juice. Or I'm sorry, bottled lime juice. We're going to give that a stir, and then we are all set for canning. It tastes amazing, and I can't wait to get it going. Okay guys, we are all set for canning. I have 3 quarts of simmering water in the bottom of my steam canner. You may steam can or water bath can this recipe. Modern canning guidelines state that we do not need to pre-sterilize jars or lids if we are processing for 10 minutes or more, and we will be. For my lids, I just wash them and set them aside. I'm using ball lids. If you are using lids from another manufacturer, make sure you know what you're supposed to do to prepare those. Some lids do require simmering before you use them. Ball lids do not. So we are all set to get our jars filled. I have started with 2 hot jars. I did, like I said, wash them, and I kept them hot in my steam canner while I was waiting for my salsa to get finished. So you do want to make sure you're starting with hot jars. And we want to fill our jars to 1/2 inch headspace. All right, once your jars are filled to 1/2 inch headspace, you're going to use a debubbling tool, plastic butter knife, or chopstick to release air bubbles. If your headspace changes, you can add more salsa. We're going to use a paper towel dipped in white vinegar to clean our rims. We don't want anything to interfere with getting a good seal. We're going to add our lids. And then our rings to fingertip tight. And in the canner they go. Okay guys, the recipe says that we will get approximately 4 pint jars. I only ended up getting 3. My 4th jar is not quite full enough to fill. So I'm just gonna set this aside and I'm gonna stick it in the fridge, and I'm gonna eat that sooner rather than later. Just know that you can go down in jar size safely. So if that happens to you, I could very easily and safely put that in an 8-ounce jelly jar and process it for the same time that we're gonna be processing for pints. So it's roughly 4 pints. Like I said, I got not quite that many. So anyway, if you're water bath canning, you want to make sure you have enough water in your canner to cover your jars by at least 1 inch. We want to bring it to a full rolling boil before you start your processing time. If you're steam canning like I am, you have a dial gauge on top that tells you when to start your processing time. We are going to process our jars for 20 minutes. Once you get to the full rolling boil, or you're in your green zone, sorry, I can't talk today, or you're in your green zone on your steam canner, you want to adjust your heat just to maintain that temperature throughout the canning process. You do not want your water bath canner boiling so vigorously that it wants to try to pop the lid off. So just adjust your heat just to maintain the full rolling boil or being in your green zone. Process for 20 minutes and then I'll bring you back. Okay guys, so we are all done. It is the next day. I didn't get to finish up my video yesterday, but I did finish processing like I told you for 20 minutes. I let my jars sit in my steam canner for an additional 5 minutes, and then I removed the lid, let them sit 5 more. If you let your jars cool more slowly in your canner, that helps to reduce siphoning. So anyway, here is a beautiful jar of the salsa ranchera, and it is just so good, you guys. This is a great recipe to have on hand because of the smokiness from roasting your veggies, and because it is a small batch, it's fantastic, and it has very basic ingredients. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed coming along with me today. If you have any comments or questions, be sure to leave them for me in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time. Have a fantastic day.